The embattled National Land Commission chiefs have blamed the Ministry of Lands as the greatest impediment to their work, as they exit office today after a controversial 6-year stint. The commission, whose tenure was rocked by grout scandals, claims the Ministry of Lands continued to encroach on its mandate despite a Supreme Court ruling in 2015. The issues have never been effectively resolved, and the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning (MOLPP) continues today to play vital roles and functions specifically and statutorily reserved for the Commission, the Mohammed Swazuri-led team said. The report fails, however, to mention the turmoil that has destabilized the 9-member Commission, especially the turf wars between Swazuri and his deputy Abigail Mbagaya. The two have been engaged in a power struggle that has spilled into the corridors of justice. The powers the NLC claims were usurped by the ministry include collection of land rent, assessment of tax on land premiums on immovable property, issuance of consents and clearance and processing of development applications. The NLC also complained that the Ministry of Lands led by Farida Karoni has refused to relinquish authority to lease public land and issue licenses to occupy public land. In its report, the Commission says critical members of staff in departments whose functions were transferred by law to the NLC remain within the ministry. It terms this a gross duplication of roles and violation of the Supreme Court ruling and the laws in force. This duplication of roles in the NLC and MOLPP poses serious threats to the validity of any resultant titles that emanate from such processes. This issue must be addressed moving forward lest the efforts made by government to reform the land sector stand in jeopardy, the outgoing commission concludes. However, National Assembly Lands Committee Chair Rachel Nyamai dismissed blaming the ministry as a convenient scapegoat for its failures. Nyamai said the NLC failed to resolve even a single historical land injustice case, despite receiving more than 388 complaints. But in the report, NLC said the Ministry of Lands arbitrarily recalled officers it had seconded to the commission, causing staff shortages that undermined its work. On December 2, 2015, the Supreme Court, then led by CJ Willie Mutunga, declared that the NLC had a mandate regarding various processes leading to the registration of land. However, the apex court ruled that the Ministry of Lands had the powers to issue land titles. In his own statement, Swazuri says it took the NLC more than 2 years to get its footing. At its inception, the commission encountered a lot of resistance, reluctance and outright objection from several interested parties in the land sector that were skeptical of change in the land reform agenda. Fear of the unknown, skepticism and sabotage greeted the commission, Swazuri said. Citing Section 32 of the NLC Act, the commission says the Ministry of Lands failed to hand over to them assets, liabilities, obligations and agreements with respect to the departments whose functions were transferred to the commission. To date, the MOLPP is yet to give an audit of all the assets and liabilities acquired or incurred by the Commissioner of Lands for purposes of transfer to the commission, the report states.